Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. The podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley, living like a head bitch in charge. And if you're new, welcome. If you're old, welcome. And if you're somewhere in between and haven't figured it out yet, welcome. Just for you that are new, head bitch in charge is about taking kind of responsibility for your own shit and doing something about it, and being responsible for your happiness and your fulfillment and living on your terms to do that. And if you're not living on your terms, owning that you're not living on it, and that's your choice. And if you don't like it, then you do something about it. So today is kind of fun because as I approach this, you know that it's about the pantry. And so we're going to give you some more ingredients that you can put in your pantry and use them if and when you choose to use them in the recipe. So we've all heard of, you're supposed to be mindful in doing your daily reviews, review your actions, and that's how you get better and, assess how you did in your day. And you start out mindful, and then at the end of the day, you review. And I'm going to bring a couple things to you today that I use, and both of them are borrowed, and then I tinkered with them because that's what I do. So if you use this, use it, borrow it, and tinker with it and make it work for you. But so one is the review of your day, and two is, applying that review to your day going forward. But as most of you know, I use Stoicism as a philosophy. And Stoicism really is just, for me, it's a very practical philosophy that's based on reason, resiliency, and virtue. And it's Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, and it goes way back to that time frame. And it's actually been practiced all the way up to now. I listen to the Daily Stoic, and I'm just kind of new enough in it to really have carved out my little world of understanding, and I'm gaining more and more knowledge in it and figuring out ways to apply it across my life in different areas. And I really like it because it helps me look at me. And the bottom line for me is what it does for me is it goes, why the hell are you doing this, girl? Is it working for you? And if you don't, if it's not, then you need to change that. Are you going to do it? And if you're, that song by, if you're so happy, then why are you so damn sad? What is her name?
I don't know that one.
Oh, you're going to know it. It's not Alanis Morissette. It's, she used to date Kid Rock.
Is she the one that did Picture Frame with him?
Yes.
Well,
See?
That's as far as I can get.
See? Okay, so it's going to be out there.
Crow.
Anyway, Google that while I figure that out.
Her name's Crow.
Yeah, Sheryl Crow. God, why?
We got it.
moment, bear with us. But again, if I'm so happy, then why is this not working for me? Why am I like this? So I like Stoicism because it gets me past the emotion, which I processed and I know, and into the emotional intelligence of, okay, what is this today? And as we talk about this is so, in a society that is so reactive, it's hard for me at the end of the day to sit down and go, ugh, and how do I process this? How do I guide it through? So today is about what I do. And for me, the power of reflection. But of course, you know me, I got to add a little something to it. And the something comes from the way I look at my reflection and the words that I use, because this may come as a surprise to some and not a surprise to others, but I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being in a box. You don't put baby in a corner. I just grew up doing I just had that kind of, I don't know what it was. It wasn't a wild streak. I just like to do things my way. And so I like to use words like choice. I don't have to. I have a choice. I'm choosing to do this. These are choices. Because if I have to do something, then it's not a choice. And I don't like to, that's a very confining situation for me. So what I did was when I reviewed, I had this practice. And then last year, around the end of the year, Stephanie Butler, she runs Voices Who Will, and she works with me. And she is technically a speech writer, coach. But to me, she's my voice coach because she has helped me understand what my voice is, how to articulate that, what I'm comfortable with my audiences, and just really been there in that realm for me. So I call her my voice coach, but that's her business. We were talking one day and she said, yeah, I'm getting ready to do my annual kind of review. And I said, oh, really? What do you do? And she said, I do this thing where I look back at the year and I look at it as what have I given myself the opportunity to overcome and do? What have I given myself was what caught me. And she said, yeah, if I fail at something, I've given myself the opportunity to do something new and try. Huh? That was so different. And then she said something that really completely freaked me out, which was, and then I thank myself for putting me out there in those situations in which I've failed or in which I didn't succeed because I put myself out there and I thank myself. I didn't ever think about thanking myself for failing on something. But it's a different take, and it's a very positive take on, yeah, I did that, so now I can do something different. And so the way that I incorporate that was, first of all, people say, do your review. Most people do it at night. I hate that because I would get really depressed laying in bed at night at about 10:30, 11 o'clock going, oh, I didn't do this, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do this, and then did this. And I fucked up at this, and I sucked at that. And I was a bitch to this person and got in a fight here or whatever it was. I always ended up on the bad side of things. And then I'd try to lay down and go to sleep. I couldn't go to sleep. I'd be up to like 2 a.m. going, oh man, I shouldn't have done. And so what I started doing was when I started practicing my Epictetus checklist, and if I'm saying that wrong, I say it wrong. In the morning is what I do. I do my review from the night before in the morning from the lens that I used from Stephanie. And then I can do something about it. So I can sit there and go, okay, how'd yesterday go? Where did I, show up and where did I not? Okay, thank you for those opportunities that I succeeded on. And thank you for trying on the ones that you didn't. And by the way, which is what I'm going to get to, this is my checklist that I'm going to guide me today. And then I can, it's fresh in my mind of what I didn't do. And then thank you for showing that. And by golly, I just said, by golly.
You're going to have to audit that later.
Yeah, this is why you have a production person, But then I can literally go in and say, okay, thank you for doing that. And now you're going to I get 2 thanks right away because now I'm going to do something different today. And this is how I'm going to do something different. So that is kind of how I use this. I don't do it every day. I do it most days. I literally do it on my phone. I have, I pulled up one from February 11th that I'm looking at on my phone just to get the outline. But I get up and I take the dogs out and I start talking into my phone and I go through this checklist and there are 10 things that I go through and we're going to go through them with you. So, but the main thing that I like about doing this and about Stoicism is I'm in control. And it's funny because that's what being an HBIC is I am saying this is my domain. Like I need to own my shit. And that's what being in control is about, is saying, this is what's affecting me, whether it's somebody who is in my life throwing trash on my side of the street that I need to clean up. Okay, I go clean that shit up, and then I don't let them in my side of the street anymore, so they can't throw trash on it. That is my control. Someone is, my triggering me from my emotions or whatever. I use this and I look at what is things that are in my control and what are things that aren't. So I'm going to go through this. And I'm also going to talk about some of the words that are used in this checklist, because the words from the time that they were originally put in this checklist, and I don't have the dates, and we can do a whole session on this Stoicism later, but are very different than the words that the way we associate that word with in society today. So I sometimes, me, I like to know the definition, the true definition, not what I think it is or not what society's told me. I like to know where this shit comes from and how it was originally used and purposed, because words can get twisted. So when I get up in the morning, I go through and I start by going, okay, what was yesterday like? How did it feel? Why did it feel that way? Where did I participate? How did, who did I help, hurt? And kind of go from there. And I take that and I go, thank you for participating in that day. And now how would you like to participate in today? And the first thing is I look at, number one, is I look at what is in my control. And what is in my control from the very base is, what are my thoughts, my actions, and my responses. Those are the three things that I control: my thoughts, actions, and responses. So I literally go through and I go, okay, well, what is in my control today? And I kind of look at what I've got going on today and I go, okay, this is how I'm going to think about this situation, or I know I'm going to have to interact with this person. It's going to be hard. So what will my thoughts be as I'm interacting? And then I take a look at yesterday and I go, ooh, these thoughts that I was thinking about, or I got twisted because I thought I could control that person, or I thought if I was just nice enough to that person, then they would be nice back to me. And, or I thought that if I would do this, then they would do that. Again, my actions, what are the control of my actions? And why am I doing those actions? Those are things that, so it's looking at what is in my control, but it's also kind of looking at, all right, well, then why am I doing that action? Why am I thinking those thoughts? And one of the best things for me to look at is, what are my responses? And it's kind of interesting for me when I started going into my day with, my responses are in my control. This situation's coming up. What are my responses going to be? And it gives me, it's almost like premeditated responses.
Right.
And going, well, these are my options. And you've heard me talk about the Rolodex. My response, ooh, I could say that. Ooh, I could do that. Ooh, that'll get me fired. Ooh, no, HR will be called in on that. Ooh, I'll never work in this town again if I say that, or whatever. And then you go but those are all of the things that I can do. Those are all options. So I think about them in a setting outside of it. And usually my response is to something that I think is going to happen. And again, I can't think of everything, but it kind of prepares me. And so I never don't have options in my responses. And that's a very freeing thing. So that is one. I look at and I review what is in my control. And I'm very specific. It can only be the things that I think, my thoughts, my actions, and my responses. Okay? So the second thing is I acknowledge what is not in my control. And I literally go, this is not, and I use the phrase, keep your hands off that shit, is the way I kind of start that review. And again, you can tell that, I'm not a philosopher. This is the way I am. Just get your paws off that shit, girl. This is the stuff that's going to come up. And this is usually anything from my personal relationship to money to, things like that. For instance, and I'll take you into 1 and 2. So 1 would be the things that I control. Okay. I'm starting a new business. Okay, I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of fear, ooh, will it work financially, blah, 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 blah. Well, the actions that I can take. Okay, my thoughts. My thought is, ooh, I would really like to get some business. Well, the action that I take to deal with that thought is I can go send out and do some business development today. I can take one step towards that action today. I can do this today to generate revenue. Or I can take this action and not spend this, or Joe, buy that extra thing for that room that you're expanding on. And I just think about that because I think about those things. And then in two, what is not in my control? Not in my control is opinions about whether or not you like this podcast.
Sure.
Not in my control is whether or not you actually sign on the dotted line for my work. Not in my control is how people and things think about me or view me, or if they take a little bit of my snippet because it's a great soundbite to further their cause. Not in my control is whether or not people call me back, whether that be friends or businesses or whatever. So again, what is not in my control are your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. Other people's thoughts, actions, and responses. Can't do this. Pause off, chick. Pause off, And the thing for me that I have to watch with these two is when I start massaging my actions to control your thoughts, actions, and responses. And so there's a fine line of doing it for an altruistic good, and there's a fine line when I cross that line, I start doing it for the good of Christine. And usually if I'm doing it for the sole good of Christine, that's based in fear. And that's off target. Okay. So then what's three? Three is examine my judgments. Okay. And this is one that when I first read this, I was like, oh, I don't like that. And so I'm just prefacing it, ladies. It may not hit you this way, but examine your judgments. Am I interpreting events rationally or emotionally? Now, at first when I read that, I was like, well, you're going to tell me if I'm interpreting emotionally, then it's wrong. And that's what I heard, even though no one said that. That's not the case. So I look at Stoicism and I look at behind all of that, what I found is that, again, we talked about this in emotional intelligence. I know exactly what that emotion is right off the bat. I know it. And if I've been around a long time, I kind of know where it's coming from. So I have addressed that. But I need to then interpret the event, not the emotion, but the event rationally. So again, emotions to me are indicators. Okay? They indicate something's going on that I need to figure out the facts to. And then I let rationale come in and kind of go, okay, well, what is that? What is making me feel uneasy? Is that about my shit? Is that about your shit? Or, am I just caught up on baggage that I haven't dealt with? Or are you really just an ass trying to light my stuff on fire? Or is it just I had a bad day? I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I drive from Raleigh to Cary for this podcast and we tape. And I mean, I leave anywhere between like 1 or noon and 2. And just depends on when we tape. But there aren't very many days that people are driving right. And
there's more people on the road than there should be. Like
at that day and time. I mean,
I'm with you. Like I'll drive home for lunch. And I'm like, why are you all out? What?
And would you knock off driving like this? But again, it's kind of like, okay, there's the emotion, and then the rational of it is, Christine, last time I checked, you had to pass a really easy driving test to get a driver's license. Okay? So there are going to be people that mess around with you driving. And so I tend to listen to music that I can't, like I have this
Lebanese spa music.
Lebanese spa music. No, actually that is not. Actually, it's called my Boo Thing music playlist, and it's got 50 Cent and Eminem and Missy Elliott and TLC and Salt and Pepper and and it's just a lot of fun music, but I can't, so I start, it helps relieve that. But again, I go to the emotion, I look at the emotion, and I go, okay, what the hell is causing this emotion? And then I look at the rationality of the events. And because emotion tells me something's going on, and then I have to decipher. And I think that for me is one of the most impactful things when I realize when I can go, ooh, then I can respond because I've got the appropriate response because I've looked at it through the lens of emotion and then uncovered it and analyzed it through the lens of rational. And I like that. So I don't separate the two. I think the emotion comes first and then the rationale comes later because the emotion helps me understand the context of stuff to look into, and the rationale goes, reality and going, okay, what's here? What is really here? What's really going on? And it also helps me examine my judgments. If you go back, what it says is examine my judgments. And my judgments is how I judge events. And so one of this is, I judge people, places, and things all the time. I was talking with a friend last night, and we were talking about judging. And I judge. People are like, oh, don't judge people. I judge you. I judge you. I am in the jury box all the time. What I've learned to do is not say, okay, this is all that's going to be presented and I'm out for deliberation. Okay, I stay in the courtroom and I listen and get more information and get more data. But I do have judgments. And I examine my judgments and I examine my beliefs because a lot of my beliefs comes from my judgments. So this helps me say, what are these judgments? What have I rendered? What have I decided? And is that based on emotion or is it based on, rational thought? And so I tend to go, all right, sometimes I have a lot of judgments just based on emotion, and I haven't taken the time to go through that. So again, the way that I do this when I do my checklist is I go, okay, usually it's like something's coming up. I look at my day and I go, okay, ooh, shit, I got this. And I have a judgment about it, or I have a judgment about that person, or I have this thought if this thought's going to work out. And that's when I look at, okay, what was my emotion about it? And then what was the rationale? What was my rational thought behind that of the events? When I look at what I did yesterday and how I want to do something different, and I look at my judgments that I've failed on yesterday, that's really a good place for me to start because I can look at, I use the word fail, and I don't mean that in the sense of, I just got knocked down and I'm getting back up. That's all I mean. That's because I don't believe that failure in the sense of like it's end and over. No. It's just that day is gone, so I'm done doing that day, and I get to do something different today. But when I look at my judgments and the way that I perceive things and therefore had a response or had something out of whack, or I've rendered judgments from that day, I pull it into my thought and I go, okay, emotion, and then what were the events around that from a rational lens? And I carry that into my day.
Your event doesn't just need a host, it needs a ringmaster of energy. Christine Spratley reads the room and keeps the momentum rolling like a damn orchestra conductor. With insight, humor, and a splash of mischief, she'll make sure your event isn't just organized, it's electric. After Christine takes the stage, your audience will be fully present, fired up, and not scrolling on their phones. Book her now at christinespratley.com.
The fourth thing is, and I like this, act with virtue. And Stoicism really is about, virtue, justice, wisdom, and courage, are the core virtues of it. So when it says act with virtue, I go into, and I have this list where it says align my actions and thought with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And this is where I want to get into what is justice and what is courage and what is what is wisdom and what is temperance from the time that it was originally, the words were originally crafted. So I want to look at wisdom first. Wisdom to me, and from what I understand through Stoicism, is practical knowledge and right judgment. It's the ability to distinguish between what is within my control and what is not. So I need to act, again, going back to the one, I need to act. Now I'm going to have my day. How am I going to act with wisdom, with practical knowledge, with knowledge that I've learned, and the application of that knowledge? Okay? So it means that I want to be I want to seek the truth. I want to question judgments of people, of my judgment, especially. And I act in alignment with that. So that's wisdom. It's practical knowledge, right? So courage, we all kind of know, we think we know what courage is, but again, this whole thing is fuck fear. It's doing it in spite of having the fear. So courage is really about the ability and the willingness to face the difficulties, the fear, and the discomfort with a steadiness of mind. Okay? And it's not that you do it with a steadiness of mind, but it's the willingness to do it with a steadiness of mind. And we all know that in order to do it willingly with a steadiness of mind, you have to practice that. And it's strength in adversity. And it's taking action and not being fearless, but it is acting with fearlessness and acting as if. You've heard that, act as if until you become. And it also, courage, as I've come to understand it in Stoicism, is about standing firm with virtue, and understanding that. And then we're going to go into justice. And I like justice because I think a lot of people, or I know for me, because I'm trying to keep this on me, and I hope you can relate, is I think about it as laws and punishment. They're going to get, justice was done. But also, and a lot of times when you hear words like chivalry and justice and virtue, and in that time frame, in that day and age, it was not just about, it actually was not about laws and punishment as much as it was about fairness and duty to others, which I thought was really interesting, to think of justice as duty to others. But if you look at even punishment and law, our laws are there for duty to others. So we have laws that protect more than just myself, and a duty to others. And it's about treating others fairly, fulfilling, the societal responsibilities and duties to others. And I know I'm getting deep here, but when I look at approaching my day with justice, I need to approach this not with the justice I think they deserve, as in laws and punishment, but with fairness and what's the best thing to do and act in my actions with duties to others when someone treats me this way or someone engages me this way. What am I going to do, not just to react based on what they're doing to me, but for everything? Because when I do that and I hold that up, it kind of right sizes me to go, okay, I want to tear them down, but does tearing them down get me where I need to go? Does it get us where we need to go? Does it elevate? Does it take me past here? Or does it just leave really, really deep skid marks and wounds? And so I really like that thought of justice being in my actions. How am I going to be just today? And sometimes I'll even go down the road of worst case scenarios. I'm going to interact with this person. This person's going to be an asshole. And okay, what's the just thing to do here? And not just for me, but also my duties to myself and others. What's fair? And the last one I think is funny, and kind of, I don't know, maybe ironic of sort, but is also temperance. And I laugh at that because as a person that doesn't drink anymore and recovering, temperance is kind of self-control and moderation, which I think we all, I don't know. I know as a woman, I have been told so many times, I'm too much, I'm out of control. If you just, tame this back a little bit. Oh, it's that time of the month. You just, we're going to leave Christine alone. She's just out of control. And what I really like about temperance is that it's my ability to regulate my desires and emotions and impulses. Okay. And there's a second part of that. To regulate them to ensure they align with reason and virtue. So, because some people, I know I've been told, oh, get small, too much, regulate yourself. And what has happened is that when I'm doing that, I'm not aligning with reason and virtue of the situation. No, I should be big on this stage. No, this is right. This is the response you should get. There's this great song, and actually I just found it. And hold on, I want to get this right, but I might not. But it's called Ain't a Bitch. And it's I ain't a bitch. And it's just, it is really funny. And basically it's I ain't a bitch till you made me one. And so sometimes you light the match, I'm going to explode. That's the appropriate response. So again, it's my ability to regulate emotions, desires, and impulses, ensuring that they align with reason and virtue. And we just talked about what virtue is, and fairness and duty to others. So I don't want to, so again, it's not just having a little bit, and which is another 50 Cent song. But it's more about making sure it's aligned with the rightness of the way that I want to be today, and the way that I want thought and actions to be today, and the way that I want others in the world to be today. So I just really like that part of it, because as a person who, I say this a lot, I never wanted half of anything. I wanted mine, I wanted yours, and I wanted the other kids. I wanted all of mine, all of yours, and the other kids too. I just think like that. So it's really funny to me when I get to temperance and I'm like, okay, how do I moderate? How do I go into this? And I make sure that it aligns with what that rational thought and that rational action should be. Then I go and this number 5 is prepare for adversity. I love that because I'm all about that. I'm all about game planning. I do it. I did it when I was in sports. I did it when I was, I call it the Mike Tyson. When I coach people, we do a plan and everything, but then we always, because a lot of times people don't want to start down a path, and they won't commit a path. And I'll tell you this, and because they're afraid that it may not work out. So an example of this, I was coaching a person and he had 2 opportunities, amazing opportunities. Both of them were. And we went around and, just walked through, just all the regular normal coaching things of make the list. And we looked at this and we networked and did all these. We had 2 opportunities. And one day I was coaching him and I said, okay, close your eyes, because we were kind of at this point where something was happening and I couldn't tell what it was. So I said, close your eyes. And I said, when you hear a word that resonates, just raise your hand. And so we went through and he closed his eyes, and when we went through and I started just saying words just to see the reaction, because I was trying to figure out, take the temperature where I was. I was trying to read where he was. And I think his word was fear of failure. And I stopped because he raised his hand and he got real quiet and he started to tear up. And basically, we had spent this time Everything was out in front. He knew the answer. He knew which job he wanted to take. But he was really concerned that he would make the wrong decision. Now, how many of us have ever done that? We don't want to take the next step because it could be the wrong decision. So what I said was, okay, well, let's get your Mike Tyson plan. Let's get your punch in the face plan. Because, yeah, you're probably going to get punched in the face. And so we literally said, if you make the decision and it get there and you go, ooh, God, this sucks. All right. You can switch to this plan that gets you. We didn't change the goal, which was to be here, not maybe at that place, because his goals were to have family and to have security and financial and blah, 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 blah. So the goal didn't change. The goal did not change. What changed was the path to that goal in this punch in the face plan. So again, I like the ad to prepare for adversity. I love sitting around going, well, what if they do that? And what if we do this and we counter with that? I love I used to sit there all the time and think about the millions of ways that a person could respond or an offer or counter and this and that. That's the one part of me that I like about that. And so when I'm sitting there thinking about my day, I go, okay, what adversity? And it does a couple things when you do that, you go, I expect adversity to happen today. I'm ready for it. I'm not surprised, but I do it and I don't get an angry kind of take on attitude. I go, okay, all right, I'm calm about this. These are some things that I can stay composed and I can be deliberate in my actions because I've thought about it. Joe, we were talking about the book, The Wisdom of a Bullfrog, and Admiral McCraven's talk about that, or his book about, he's the Navy SEAL, and a bullfrog is the oldest and longest active Navy SEAL, living Navy SEAL. And he was the bullfrog. And he if you haven't read the book, it's an amazing, amazing book. I thought it was. I thought it showed me so much more about military. I love reading like The Art of War and things like that. So I love that sort of mindset of leadership and just the discipline. But one of the things that was so amazing to me was the way that they would go and they would practice their mission. And they practice for things and they would do steps 1 and 2. And then something would happen and they would do step 3, but they would practice all the different variations that step 3 wouldn't work out. And so then they would do that for, they'd go on, do that with 4, and they'd do 1, 2, and 3, right? And then 4 would mess, so they like practice all these different variations of it going wrong. And so when it went wrong, it was, oh, well, now we just do this, 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 and this. It wasn't an emotional decision. It was this, 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 and this. And so when I prepare for adversity, I don't prepare for it from an emotional standpoint. I prepare for it as if this happens, then in a composed and deliberate action that I can take would be boom, 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 to get to the same result that I always wanted to get to, which I love. I love that. It prepares me and I don't always execute, or it may take me, 5 cuss words and a finger before I turn on the music and start going, okay, you're just going to drive in the left-hand lane and drive real slow, and I'm going to get in the right-hand lane and pass you, and then I'm going to get in the left-hand lane. But again, I've thought about it. I know now, okay, at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays, driving from Raleigh to Cary, there are going to be people that don't know how to drive. So how am I going to do that? What is the rational and composed way that I can address it and take deliberate action? So 7, which is fate. It's basically embracing life as it unfolds without resistance. There's a difference. I used to think like fate was just, okay, I got to take it on and here it is. And I have but it embraces it as it unfolds. And there's something to be said for me when I go, I'm going to embrace today. And it kind of goes back to Stephanie's thing of thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity for growth. I was talking to a lady last night. We were talking about her word this year is growth. And so she's just looking at it as all opportunities for growth. When I have a hard time being grateful for that and embracing life as it unfolds, there's something that I go and I get really honest about this, and I go, well, you could not be here. You could, you could not have this. You could have not be here at all. So is that where, like if we want to cut to brass tacks, you're either alive or you're dead. So Christine, either life unfolds as it's going to unfold, or, I mean, think about it. And I say that not kind of jokingly. Just so you know, I was a person that tried to commit suicide a lot and did try and have the scars to prove it. And I thought that was easier. And so but there's a time when I got to a point was like, all right, do you want to be alive or do you want to be dead? And if you're going to be alive, then this is how shit's unfolding. So, some days it's mud and you're trudging knee deep in shit through it. And other days it's a hop, skip, and a jump. So again, the fate is just the embracing of life as it unfolds. I always thought fate had something to do with the ending, rather than the fate being the process and the journey. To me, it's not the ending, it's the embracing of the process and the journey, that this is just what it is right now. Then there is, like I said, I pull in from the beginning. And again, this was on the checklist, it's 8, but I actually put it up in 1, which is reviewing the day before and bringing that into my thought process and saying, okay, what do I yesterday was this going on? Thank you for yesterday. Thank you for stepping up in areas you stepped up, Christine. And thank you for, having an opportunity to step up today because you screwed up yesterday. And this is how you're going to do it. Now, one of the other ones, and we all know this, we've heard it 100 times. How am I going to practice gratitude today? And this is my acknowledgement that there's good in my life and that I can learn from the difficulties. And again, by doing this, I have a frame mindset when I walk into my day. 1, there is going to be good in my life. And 2, yeah, there are going to be difficulties, but I get to learn from them. We just did a podcast episode on when was the last time you did something for the first time? And again, I get to do something for the first time a lot of times because I'm learning from my screw-ups and my difficulties. And so I get to try something new. I get to talk to people a different way. I get to embrace people a different way. And that is really fucking awesome. Because if I am stuck being who I was yesterday for the rest of my life, there's a lot of things I want to do different. And so there are a lot of things that I can improve upon and learn from. So again, I'm going to practice gratitude around that. I'm not going to bitch. I used to say this, and I talk to myself a lot. And I sometimes, a lot of times I talk out loud to myself because I need to talk as harshly as I talk about to others, sometimes to myself, in the sense of I need to tell that critic in my head to sit down and shut the fuck up and all that stuff. But one of the things that I talk to myself about is try to get real honest that there's good in my life. And then what I try to do is I learn from my difficulties, but then I try to seek out more good. And when I honor that good and I say, ooh, this was good, this was a good thing, it's usually around me saying that and being grateful, but then taking a grateful action and doing more of that good and getting more of the good. And usually it's doing things for the first time or learning from that difficulty and taking different action. The last one is maintaining perspective. So the last thing I try to do when I do my checklist is I go, there is a bigger picture. And you are not the center of the universe, Christine. And I forget that because I'm pretty fucking important to me. All I've got in my body. And so I think that is how this interacts out there. And I liken this to, I was told one time that it's like if you look at, if you take your finger and you put it over your eye and you can only see this part, you get to see this part of the world. But yet there's this mural that's painted all around it. I am just that part of this big, huge mural. And again, kind of going back to the duty to the others and duty to the mural, I can only see that. So again, I've got to maintain my perspective and see where I fit into the bigger picture and how I can fit. Because sometimes I think I'm the bigger picture and then I can't interact in a way that really helps the bigger picture. And so I call it trying to stay right-sized. I'm not too big and I'm not too small. I'm just the right size. And that's how I want to show up today. And when I get out over my skis, I could tell you time and time again, I was talking the other day, there's nothing like having to apologize to an asshole because I thought I was bigger than I was. And I was not right-sized. And I had to get right-sized real quick. And so I try to do that. I also, in that right-sizedness, have learned that I have that one match. We've talked about that song where I have one match and I can make an explosion. But I need to see the bigger picture as to where I can make that explosion and where is the best place for me to make it, not just for myself, but for others. And doing this is, for me, very impactful. And it's cut down on my therapy bills a lot because it's really allowed me to kind of look at stuff. And it's actually, I will say this, it's actually allowed me to have therapy and counseling and conversations to be much more meaningful because it's really easy for me to spot where I'm stuck. And I do it on my phone or I do it in writing. And there's something else I'll leave you with is put this stuff. For me, I need to put this down in paper or in text or whatever. And there's two reasons for it. One, there's something about it being down there, and I don't change that. And I don't go back and erase. I just, I do the parentheses around it if I want to shift to a different thought or I don't like that, I don't erase. And because otherwise I edit myself. But putting it down there, you get it out and I put it out there, okay? But then it also memorializes my journey and my participation in how my thought, my growth, my lack of growth in some areas, but how I chose to engage in today. And what my intentions were about engaging in today. And that's also something that's funny is like when I go back and I look and I go, oh yeah, I remember I was going to act this way today and I was going to do these things today. And oh God, I haven't done that. But it's a map and it shows where I've been in my journey. And it's a history of me participating in my life. And I am bearing witness to me. And I think that's one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves, to ourselves, is bear witness to who we are. And when I don't do that on paper, I try to do it in my head only. There's some diminishing powers that come with that when I do that. Because then I get to rewrite it the way I think it should be. I get to hide a little bit. But then I also don't get to celebrate as much either. And I want it all. I don't want just the good stuff and I don't want just the bad stuff. I want it all. I was given life and I was given today. And that means I get to celebrate it all. And this is what helps me celebrate it. And like I said, I do this in the morning. And then about 1 o'clock, I'm flipping somebody off on 440. But I do it in the morning and I try. And then the next day I get up and I try and do it again. And that's what I really love. So this is something you get to use. I'd be really curious to see not what you think, but what you do and the reactions for that. I really want to know what you do. Do you take a little bit of it? Do you take a lot of it? Do you tweak it? Tweak it. Make it your own. I don't know. Use it on one of the 4 areas of your life. I don't care. Try something. Do something different. But I really like that it's the map of my life. And if I look back from where I was 4 years ago when I started kind of the journey of going from, I'm unhappy. What do I do? We're kind of barren. My cupboard is pretty barren. What do I do? To where I am today. I'm not done, but today I'm enough. And this is part of being that. So ladies, hopefully a few gentlemen, more than a few, I hope this is something you put in your pantry and I hope it's useful. If it's not, toss it out, go find something that is useful. But until then, enjoy your journey, enjoy your day. You are enough. And Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.